We're always told to be critical, right? But what does that really mean? Does it just mean finding fault with everything? Well, today we're going to explore a much more powerful way to look at the world. It's about moving past simple judgment to actually understand why things happen the way they do.
Okay, let's just jump right in and look at this. On one side, you've got what we typically think of as being critical. You're disagreeing, you're opposing, you're poking holes in things. The main goal is to pass judgment. But then, look at the other side. That's a totally different game. It's about reconstructing, explaining, and really getting a handle on the underlying structure of something. That's the world of the systems thinker.
So let's really dig into the problem with our usual idea of criticism. We're taught that being smart means picking things apart, but honestly, that can just trap us in a loop of being reactive and, frankly, kind of negative. And what's so fascinating is how this plays out, right? Intellectual work gets boiled down to just finding flaws in an argument. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a skill, but it's only half the picture. It doesn't actually help us build a deeper understanding of why something is the way it is in the first place.
This is the big question, isn't it? This is what opens the door to a whole new way of thinking. What if we shifted our entire goal from just trying to win an argument to truly, deeply grasping the mechanics of what's going on?
And that right there brings us to the systems thinking framework. Think of it less as a new opinion and more like a whole new operating system for your brain. It's designed specifically for explanation and analysis, not just that surface-level judgment we were talking about. Okay, I know what you're thinking. A formula? Looks a little intense, right? But stick with me, because the idea behind it is actually incredibly simple. All it's really saying is that any event, let's just call it X, doesn't just poof into existence. Nope, it's produced by a system. That system does some kind of work, that work is powered by energy, and the whole thing happens over a certain amount of time. That's it.
So what this really boils down to is that nothing happens in a vacuum. A big product launch, a political protest, a major scientific breakthrough, they are all events produced by some system doing work. And that work always needs energy. It could be money, people, passion, ideas, and of course it all unfolds over time.
Now, the best part about this is that it's not just some abstract theory, it's a real practical toolkit. It gives you a clear set of questions you can ask about, pretty much anything you want to understand on a deeper level.
And here's how these 5 questions work together. First, you have to get crystal clear on the event you're looking at. Then, you identify the system behind it. What's it for? Next, what kind of work is that system actually doing? Then, what's the fuel? What energy is powering it, and where is that energy coming from? And finally, you look at the timeline. Was this a one-off thing, or is it part of a bigger, repeating cycle?
Theory is one thing, but let's see how this thing actually performs in the wild. We're going to apply this toolkit to something incredibly complex and emotionally loaded: the outbreak of a war.
So the standard critical approach? It would probably jump straight to assigning blame, right? Judging actions, condemning one side or the other. But that's a really narrow view that honestly misses most of what's actually going on. But a systems thinker does something completely different. This is where you really see the power of this framework. Instead of just stopping at the event, war, we start mapping the entire system. The system is organized conflict. Its work is violence and destruction. The energy is pretty obvious: soldiers, weapons, logistics. But then, we go deeper. What are the motivating forces? Now we're talking about fear, hatred, ambition. And where do those forces come from? Now you're digging into historical grievances, cultural stories, and political maneuvering. All of a sudden, you see the conflict not as a single moral mistake, but as the predictable output of a complex, energized system that's been operating over time.
So, when you put this all together, what you get is this fundamental shift in your entire mindset. It's about changing the whole goal of how you engage with the world.
And this right here is the core takeaway. You move from just reacting to an event to actively reconstructing the system that created it. Your main question is no longer, is this good or bad? It becomes, how did this happen? What are the actual mechanics that produce this outcome?
So the difference becomes crystal clear. The critic is oriented toward opposing things. Their goal is judgment, and their default practice is reaction. The systems thinker, on the other hand, is oriented toward reconstructing and explaining. Their goal is understanding, and their practice is deep analysis. You're basically moving from being a spectator in the stands to being an engineer with the blueprints.
And that leaves us with one last thought. I want you to think about a really complex issue in your own world, maybe at work, in politics, even in your personal life. Instead of just judging it or getting frustrated by it,
What would happen if you paused and asked, what's the system here? What's the work? What's the energy? And what's the timeline? That right there, that's the first step to thinking like a systems thinker.